and welcome back to the Clicker Cast. We are here covering episode 3 of HBO's The Last of Us Season 2. This is our second episode of the season. I am once again joined by Shotgun McPain and Ballistic Gaming. Say hello, gamers!
Hello, everybody! Hello! It's about how this all started. So
yeah. We have been dealing with tech issues for the last almost hour and a half now. So we finally got it to work. It looks a little different, but I think we're okay. I think everything is fine.
We're good.
I really hope so. Yeah, woo! But hopefully, aside from that, we're a little more organized. I took a bunch of notes. I have pages of notes, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, once again, we'll start every episode like this. Spoiler warning!
Yes.
If you have not watched the episode, if you have not played the game, go watch it and then come back.
Or don't.
Or don't. You know, I get it would be nice if you did, but I guess you don't have to.
Come back. Come back.
Come back. Yeah, okay. So, getting right into it, we started this episode with our beloved Joel Miller on the table, covered in a white sheet, following the events of the last episode. He is, how do I want to say this?
He got up and danced like that frog.
He did, yes, he did, yeah. He is accompanied by his brother Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
And he says something along the lines of, "Tell Sarah I love her." And it was
give Sarah
my love. That's what it is.
Give
yes.
Sarah my love
yeah.
to me, yes.
And it was devastating.
Yeah, that brought episode 1 to just full circle right there. Like, my God.
I saw a couple of people thinking the same thing I thought, buddy. Joel is not where Sarah is. I'm gonna let you know, Joel is not where Sarah is.
Unfortunately not.
There's a heaven and hell. Holy shit, Joel is not there.
Hate to admit it, but no, he's not.
No.
But then we pretty much transfer directly into a hospital setting where we find Ellie. Right. And the first thing she does is she comes to, and you just get this gut-wrenching scream from Bella Ramsey, which gave me goosebumps the entire scene.
Yeah.
That was, whew.
Yeah.
That was
just like a realization, though, right there. Like,
yes.
She's not this robot. She's not this tough, like, senseless thing.
Yeah.
She's living, breathing, just.
Well, I think it reestablishes the fact that she's waking up from this nightmare and it's still the nightmare. You know, like she's very much still in that. She can't escape that. You know, so I think it's a great tone piece for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Whew. That got me. That was rough. But then we skip 3 months, which Ballistic and I have talked about this. It makes total sense, actually.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And once again, we are met with the quote-unquote controversy of therapy. What were your thoughts and feelings about seeing another one of our main characters talking to a shrink?
Well, the way she went about it, it made sense for Ellie.
Yeah.
Very shut off. Very, like, she's been in that situation before and she knows how to play the game.
Definitely.
Because she's saying exactly what Gail wants to hear. Yes, I missed him. Yeah.
I think Gail knows that, though.
She does. Oh,
like, also being a
absolutely.
seasoned professional, you know.
She, and further on the episode, she brings that up, No, I don't believe a single word she said. There's a very nice line that she says, and we'll get to it more, but I just want to say it, is there's a difference between lying and liars. And Tommy asked, well, what is she? So she's a liar.
Yep.
There's only one person that she was telling the truth to, and and that's Joel, because she will get her revenge. She says it's not, and we'll get to that. So I'm skipping ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. It all works.
Some would say the show's skipping ahead in some spots, too. We'll get to it.
What do you mean?
Seraphites is just what I meant.
Right. Gotcha. Okay.
Just
yeah.
Oh, that.
Introducing
a
little earlier.
No, that makes total sense. Actually, yes. Okay. So we see Ellie lie her way through therapy to get out of that hospital as soon as she can. Mm-hmm. It is very obvious that she is not 100% yet in many ways, mentally and physically. Yeah. She's not really ready to be out there yet. But the first thing that she does is go to Joel's house. And we see that very emotional scene where she's crying into Joel's jacket. And just absolutely heartbreaking. Again, wonderful performance by Bella Ramsey. That was just stunning how she did that. And then Dina calls for her from downstairs, bearing cookies and a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and no Maria this time either.
Nope.
It's just Dina.
Yeah, no Maria. Dina knows everything.
Yep.
Most things, I should say. Maybe not everything. But merely 30 minutes after Ellie is released, she is hit with this just fact bomb of, these are the people, this is the organization, her name is Abby.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which I think kind of like, not trying to say I'm right, but
nope.
The little
absolutely
the little push. It's not exactly what I said, because I was like, oh, she's gonna say like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
But definitely the person who's like, here's the information,
But you know what? She knows Ellie.
But I don't think
what is she going to do with that information?
Yep. Right. And that's the other thing too, is that
it's not like, it wouldn't be a push, but in her way, knowing Ellie, it is. It's that push that she needs.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I think, what do you guys think about, again, now that we're on episode 3, Dina being the person that was there rather than Tommy? Because I think that leads at least a little bit to like the push.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
However, it make more sense as the season's progressing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because so in the game, Tommy is this irresponsible guy, and that was mentioned on multiple aspects in season 1 and The Last of Us, the game. Mm-hmm. And he showed that light in the game, because he was the one that went after, left first without telling anybody, without and essentially lying to Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
This whole new aspect that they brought in, which now I get it.
Yep.
Adding that child, adding that aspect, he is a responsible person. He is, the family aspect really calmed him down. And further into the episode, which we will get to, when he actually talks to Ellie for the first time, and that conversation that they had.
Yep. I mean, that's honestly a perfect time to go into it, because that's kind of right after this happens. Other than like the little cutaway to the Seraphites.
Yeah.
Which didn't really tell us a whole lot.
I just want to jump back though to the intro.
Sure.
And I think the way they opened up that episode with the washing of the body, the cleansing of the body, is which makes you kind of realize the times that these people are in now. That is a very old traditional way to do this, to where your loved ones were the ones that came and cleaned your body, prepped your body.
Yeah.
And we do not see a funeral for Joel. They didn't show that. But the way that Tommy was there, just kind of methodically washing his skin, and It's that acceptance almost. He didn't seem angry. He was mournful. Yes, he just lost his brother. But he wasn't angry.
I wonder too with that like the we don't have the embalming process, right? So you have to do that like even just for a cleanliness to keep up clean. I mean, think about hygiene is super important in these times. You know, you don't know what, I mean, look at the water supply. I mean, that alone got contaminated, you know. So who's to say? But anyways, the other small point with that too is the fact that the graves are 10 miles outside of Jackson, which I think makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
and honestly,
absolutely.
That is actually my favorite part of the episode, is when they go, like, not to get too far ahead, but that when they go to that is like by far my favorite part of the episode, because it's like, it's the start of the journey. It's not.
Yes, this is the beginning.
That is the one change that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then.
Well, speaking of the beginning, they changed the show intro.
Yes.
If you watched it, usually it's a bunch of cordyceps building up, and then you see this still of Joel and Ellie standing there together. In this episode, Joel is not there. Pedro Pascal is not in the credits whatsoever. Gone. He's just gone.
And that little small change will actually make more sense further on in the episode too, when we're talking to Gale with Tommy. That'll make a little bit more sense why they took that away. And I want to get into it when we get there, but also just going forward, like past that extreme, like just holy shit, he's gone. You know, like he is gone. In the present, he is gone, which is where Ellie is. Yes, we know we are going to get flashbacks with the return of Pedro, and we all know that. At least most of us who play the game know there's flashbacks coming. Pedro Pascal is not out of this season.
Yeah.
Well,
just yet.
Will we get him in this season though?
Yes.
Like, do you think
100% will?
Do you think we'll get it?
I think so. Yeah.
I think we. What are the chances we get out of this season without a Future Days? Come on, dude. We gotta have Future Days. Like.
And then we go forward that 3 months.
Yes.
And then before we get to Ellie, I think this is a very important aspect. You see Tommy hammering down some wood. They're making forms. They're gotta pour some concrete. And you notice something. He's not driving, and nothing's going in. And all of a sudden, the camera pans to the left, and you see Jesse. And Jesse is just shoveling stone into the form. Well, Jesse looks at Tommy, just kind of gives him this little smile and nod. And I think this is very important to pay attention to, because I think this is going to play kind of a role change for Jesse here going forward. It almost as if Tommy passes the torch to Jesse, giving him the sledgehammer and finishing his work. I think that's foreshadowing. That's foreshadowing something. It's not going to follow the game. I don't think that line is going to follow the game. I think we are already off that path. So I think that little bit right there is signifying some kind of foreshadowing going forward with this show.
Yeah.
I think Jesse might be more in a Tommy situation. I think he still meets up with Ellie. I think it's in a different aspect. I don't know. I told myself to that, but I think we're veering into that kind of direction right now.
Okay.
Because it was almost like a passing of the torch moment.
Yeah.
To the old to the young. The broken to the healthy, per se.
So do you think Jesse's spoilers for the game, I guess. Do you think Jesse survives this time?
No, I don't think it does.
Because again, spoilers for the game. But my question is, who approaches her at the end? You know, if it's not Tommy, who approaches her to get back into the game? You know, basically. Because
that is an interesting point, actually.
That's the thing that I'm trying to figure out is if they're making Tommy this altruistic person, which I think is a great, way to do things.
It makes sense. The switch makes sense.
Yeah, but it would make sense. Absolutely.
How do you reason with that, like closer to the end of what is part 2?
They're very creative.
Yeah,
I think if they're going away from this aspect, they're definitely gonna find a way. And instead of Tommy, I think it's going to be Seth.
Okay.
I truly think it's going to be. I think it's going to be.
I don't love that.
We'll get into that here. We'll get into that.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep going.
We'll get into that. This is a good debate point. This is a
good
debate point, but we'll definitely get into that.
Okay, so let's shift back and let's talk about the Seraphites, seeing them so early on.
Yes, that threw me off.
And they are just talking about the Prophet, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you thinking about that?
Whistle.
Oh, the whistle. Yeah.
That whistle, they got it. Oh.
They nailed it.
I think it's an incredible way, especially because for where we're probably going to end, it's an incredible way to foreshadow these people, to kind of get them in early on, so you know that they're going to be in there. I think it's a little navel gazy, but that's just me.
Okay.
But yeah.
So, bringing them in this early. This is another. I think they did something very, very, very clever. We already dislike the WLF and Abby because that's who we only think that is. It's just them. They are the WLF right now.
Right.
Find out how untrue that is. But they're painting the WLF as these evil, maniacal people. Because when that daughter is talking to that dad, they seem peaceful. We are introduced to the Seraphites as enemies from the beginning of the game, even while we play as Abby, because we don't meet the Scars as Ellie until after we play as Abby for the first time. Mm-hmm. So they're these primitive bad people. But now we're seeing them in a different light. Are they really these bad people? And these wolves are just attacking them for no reason, which we figure later on in the episode. They threw a lot at us in this episode.
Definitely.
I think
we got to bring back.
Yeah. I think with the whole thing of like, are we bad people? I think with the themes of the game, it's everybody's the main character of their own story, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's something that legitimately they are doing decently well in this season so far. And I think it is more complicated than that. Like they believe that they are in the right. Whether that makes them morally right is another thing. So I think like that's the exploration we get, and like you're saying, where we do get them in a way of like humanizing these religious zealots, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. I think that is really important for the overall story of like in the overall themes of, yes, the WLF is fucked. Yes, the Fireflies are fucked. Yes, the Seraphites are fucked, but they're also humans. They're also people that are just trying to
surviving their own way.
I think what 2 does is expands on the question. Expands on the question of what Joel did right. And I think in morality terms, obviously no. But in like what he thought was right for him, it's his main character. He made the effort for someone that he loved. And I think that you're seeing that reverberating. You're seeing it in Abby, right? Abby killing Joel to get revenge for someone that she loved. The Seraphites obviously are going to kill a ton of people for the Prophet who they love and believe in. And it's like, I think it will lead better into that revenge plot at the end of things, because it kind of like all intersects. George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes, like that sort of thing. So
okay,
yeah. You look like you have thoughts on that, Ballistic. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm just thinking like, yeah, I think it's going to play into the revenge plot a little bit deeper, but I also think this is giving a good introduction on why we're going to figure out why. But as of right now, all we know is that the WLF came after this group of people who ran him, fled.
Yeah.
As far as we know. And like, even like when they're hiding behind the log, Daddy is that demons. Obviously they're prefacing the infected.
Right.
And he says, with a heavier side than you would think, it's like, no, wolves. So I think they're going to play more of a dynamic than we think they're going to.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Did you have something you want to add to that?
I don't really. I think the only other thing, like, I'm not really big on this episode. I'm gonna be 100% on it. I'm being quiet because I don't really.
No, that's fine.
I just don't. Not that I hated it. I just don't think I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay.
This episode kind of left me like.
There's a lot of deep meaning in this episode, and I figured out why.
I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, and
with this episode, less so than more so than the other episodes. I'm like, okay, I have more of an outlook of like, okay, I see what they're doing, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. But so far, I'm not a huge fan of what's going on. I think like I think it's just the changes that they're making and the timeline changes that they're making. I don't think necessarily serve anything. But I'm also willing to be proven wrong. You know, I'm very much wanting to be proven wrong and be like, oh, what? Yeah, like that makes sense. You know, I was telling my mom, you know, if I wasn't on this, I'd probably wait until it was all out so I could get the whole breadth of the season. I think it's a better way to consume it, personally, right now. At least for me, because I feel like I'm talking before I see, you know, like I don't really want to give too many of my thoughts on it until I'm like confirmed that, oh, this went the place that I didn't think, which I might not even get till the next season, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after we see the Seraphites just get absolutely bodied by the WLF, it cuts back to Jackson, where we are in this council meeting.
You're skipping ahead, I think, a little bit.
What on
a very important scene.
What did I miss?
When Jesse comes, when we zoom into Ellie doing the punching bag with Jesse, that little conversation that they had in there.
Okay, yeah.
And this is before the council meeting, and it kind of plays a light in what Jesse says to Ellie, because she's asking him, do you have my back? During this council meeting, we find out they're going to have a council meeting for people going to avenge Joel and find these people. As you're trying to figure it out, she's like, oh, you're on the council now, which is something we find out new.
Yeah.
Did Jesse now take Joel's spot? Which he did, because Joel was a council member. So technically, he replaced Joel.
Yeah.
And you can almost see it and kind of hear it in her voice when she says that. Like, now you're in this position. Do you have my back? And he says, like, I'm not going to disclose anything. And also, the council is going to want to hear people and their opinions on this. And he says to Ellie, I want you to take what you want to say and write it down.
Yeah.
And she responds, why? Because I'm stupid and don't know how to speak? He's like, no, because you're angry. And nobody will vote angry. And we'll get into why that was a very important
like that.
Yeah, that was a good thing. Yeah.
To say going into that council meeting and kind of who flips that role. And we'll get into that here when we get into this council meeting.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I actually really love that.
Yeah, it is interesting. And just before we get into it, she also talked to Tommy, similar conversation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he also did not disclose if he was in favor or against whatsoever.
No, and it's a hard one to read.
Yeah.
Because he just lost his brother.
Yeah. I think the podcast made a really good point, though, and we'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, carry on. Sorry.
And just kind of going into this council meeting, kind of knowing that, and them going through that vote. But again, we'll get to that. So
So let's jump into it. Let's jump into it. Yes. Okay.
Now we're back, and now we're in the council.
So
There's
now we're up to speed. Everything is good. Yes, absolutely. So we are in this little. I'm just gonna call it a council meeting room, whatever we want to call it. I don't really care. Yeah. Whatever it was.
It's like a Senate meeting almost. Like not a Senate meeting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And most of the town is there. The remainder of the town is there.
Yeah.
And we see some people who are like, oh, blah, 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 crops and whatever.
Yeah.
And then we get to...
So I had to get the crops done, and I just really think corn should be our number one export.
Yeah.
This is like, all right, Gary, your fifth time.
Let's go back to why we called upon you. It's like, oh, I don't have an opinion on that. Well, Grace, it's fucked down.
Yeah. So they go through a couple people, and then we get to Ellie's point. And she stands up and unfolds this little paper.
I think, though, before we get to that, and I'm sorry, I know you had your, I know, but it's, I don't know if you're, were you going to go back to the key point of Seth?
I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah.
Were you going to circle back to that then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes.
My mind, like, I'm there already.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I got it. That is a key point, yes, yeah. So yeah, Ellie starts reading out this pretty much bullshit letter, I would argue. Trying to appeal to the masses in this council meeting. And, you know, she's trying to be like, it's about justice. And not revenge and whatever.
Trying to play to Maria.
Yes.
Because she was an attorney. We learned that, last season, that she used to be an attorney during the real world. So she's like,
yes,
give them what you used to give them. Justice.
Yes.
Very good. Very smart.
It was a smart thing to do. Absolutely.
Very smart.
And then we see this very unlikely party join forces with Ellie and Dina. That being Seth, who formerly was calling Ellie and Dina homophobic slurs in front of everybody. And he has had this point of realization, that's what I'm gonna call it, and wants to be on their side now and wants to help them out.
Yeah, that speech that he gave, the anger almost.
Yeah.
You could tell Seth has been through some shit.
Absolutely.
Like the way he sounded and talking to me, just because I've experience with it, sounded very militarized. The way he was delivering that speech, emphasizing on, you guys are just afraid.
Yeah.
They came in, they took one of ours. And he's like, you guys are acting like a bunch of victims. Because people are more concerned about themselves. Yeah, a lot of people died. But they were killed by mindless creatures. Joel was not.
Yeah.
Joel was killed by people. Very sadistically and very, very gruesomely killed.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a shot to the head. It was 2 shots to the knee, or 1 shot to the knee. He got beaten. Then they killed him.
Yeah.
And he's trying to let them know, like, these weren't brainless creatures.
Yeah.
That killed them. They will come back. And he said something very...
Yeah, one of my favorite things that he said in that scene was, there's an intruder coming, and you left the door unlocked.
And then he says, you will deserve it.
Yes.
I was like, that closed out that speech.
Yep.
Better than... And that's the thing. It kind of goes back to when Jesse was telling Ellie, anger, people will not vote for anger. Now she saw what anger can do, because nobody really reacted to that.
Yeah.
they were just kind of blankly staring at him like, why are we going to go into this with anger? We got to be smart.
Yep, absolutely.
And they're trying to justify giving away 16 people after they just lost hundreds. And it's going to be their 16 best, leaving them unprotected.
Yep. While their fences are down as well. Absolutely. While
their fences are down. And Seth doesn't care. Because it wasn't mindless monsters that killed him, it was people.
Yeah.
And it's going to, I think the biggest factor in this season is not going to be the people against the monsters this time. It's going to be people against people. We're going to see more gruesome moments, I think, going forward with this, since it's going to be less people killing monsters and more people killing people.
Well, that's definitely the nature of the game.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels so, like, I don't want to say, like, creatureless almost, but, like, your main enemy is other people.
Yeah.
The entire way through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see some interesting things, which we're not going to see for a while. But it's people against
a revenge thriller. I mean, truly, it's just
it is
going through the gamut, right?
Gone from creature feature to a revenge film, basically. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the zombie genre really does. Is that you look at all these different media and their ways to the zombie media, and there are different ways to explore humanism. Like the Dawn of the Dead, is talking about consumerism and the mindless zombies, like consuming, it's, and even the last season of The Last of Us is very much to put you in the position to make these scenarios happen, right?
Mm.
It is a way to create this it's mixing the bottle to create these situations, right? And I think that's what the genre does so well. And I think, again, pushing people to that limit and saying, okay, what would you do in this situation? A great media, I think, does put it to your mind of like, okay, what would I have done in Joel's situation? What would I have done in the council situation, in Ellie's situation, in Dina's situation? Like, you kind of, I do think that's what the great media does, and I think that's what this. I don't know if this season, but the game does.
Yeah, it's the premise of it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we have Seth go on this big rant, and then the council votes. In short, and the vote is 8-3.
Staggeringly.
It is a huge loss.
Not in favor.
Huge loss. And we are essentially left with the question of who voted yes.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And they touched on this in the official HBO podcast.
And the behind the scenes too, I think they did at the end.
Yeah, I think that's also true.
I think they're right. I don't think Tommy voted yes. I think Tommy voted no.
They didn't really give us confirmation on Jesse and Tommy. Although I think Jesse is likely in favor.
Maria's definitely in favor. I know that.
Yes.
Maria, but I think because if you notice, look at the way Tommy was looking around when they were calling the vote.
Yep.
It's almost like he wasn't surprised that it was staggeringly a no.
Yeah.
So he knew he was not going to be a deciding vote. But again, who were those three people?
Right.
We could definitely say Maria.
Yes.
Jesse on the fence. Tommy, I think, was a no. But who else? Who was in favor?
Right.
Because it'd almost be too obvious if it was Maria, Jesse, Tommy. I don't think it was that obvious. And that's why I think it's going to be a differentiating role for Jesse and Tommy. I think they're flipping. I think that it's a switch.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I think the third vote is not necessarily a character. It's the revenge. It is an idea. It is. Okay. It was somebody in the show, right? Like it obviously was a member of that council, but it's because they're changing the way Tommy is and the way Jesse is, and then also putting that little bit in Maria. You know, I think that it is Jesse and Maria, and then revenge. It is the idea that you're like, yeah, you're right. We're not gonna let these fuckers get away with this. And I think that it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. Again, this sounds very like navel gazy and everything, but like I truly believe that is like the through line. You know, it doesn't matter who it was. It is the fact that someone wanted that revenge to win.
Yeah, and a lot of people need to know though that in the game there was no vote.
Right.
Yeah.
It was Maria and Dina kind of finding Ellie in that house. And Maria's technically telling her, Ellie says, "You're not going to fucking stop me."
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'm not trying to. Bring my dumbass husband home.
Yeah.
And then it became a revenge rescue mission almost. Because you see Tommy's destruction going through. You see it all the way to when you finally get to him in the game. And there's going to be an absence of that. So I'm interested to kind of see like where they're going with that aspect, because you're kind of in Tommy's wake the entire time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the WLF are on arm. They're on arms because of Tommy. And Ellie and Dina are kind of getting that ripple effect. But now they're targeted. Now they're, an enemy straight out the gate.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how they're going to play that aspect now that that's not a thing.
Yeah, definitely. So we have this vote. It is no. Astoundingly no. Overwhelmingly no.
Overwhelmingly.
And, of course, as we know how the story goes, Ellie's still going to go. Absolutely, she's still going to go. And we essentially cut away to Ellie in the garage of Joel's house. Packing up nothing but guns.
Guns. I think we saw one can of perishable food. She had her goddamn Chucks on.
Yes.
She loves them fucking things.
Yes. And then there's a knock at the door. And she is very hesitant to open it. I think for obvious reasons. And she's like, "Who is it?" And of course it's Dina, who comes in with a plan. Asking about medical supplies, asking about blankets, things to keep her warm, because it's Seattle, it snows, it's wet, it's cold.
It's a long distance too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And she helps get all these supplies from, at the time, an unknown party. All she says is, "I know a guy." Which we later find out is Seth once again. Which is very interesting. Because Seth literally broke them out at 3 a.m. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the whole, that whole thing, how that played out.
It was an interesting turn.
Yeah.
I liked it because it brought in this. It made sense because now they need to. Who's taking the place of Maria? Maria, either way, which way she voted, is still going to uphold that city or that safe place to its standards. So it had to be somebody. And who else is better than Seth? This old-timey, almost war-ridden older man. And he comes up, cane limping, with a rifle in hand.
Yep.
And all he says is trade. And Ellie just looks, she's like, "Trade. This one is better, I promise." Ellie very hesitantly takes it from him. And there's a very, very important moment before that scene kind of ends. And that's that long, handshake of waiting. And almost like she's realizing Seth really isn't that bad. She's not gonna be friends with him. But there's that mutual respect there now that they are a part of the same aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much. So, like, me thinking about more of the like revenge thing throughout. Like, there's people who are telling Ellie to calm down, right? Like, and like approach this through, like the smart means of doing things. And I wonder, especially with the thing that, the therapist says of this isn't nature, this is nurture, or this isn't nurture, this is nature.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much of that is the through line of Joel. So it's like she's what's interesting to me is they set her up to be this person who really does kind of feel not like she still wants revenge, but it's like in the game, it's like, yep, I'm going. I don't care who the fuck it is. Like this, it seems a little more reserved. And I think because you have these dueling parties, like, well, think about this smartly. Like, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you have the revenge. You have the people who are there to say, hey, you need to do this. This is justice. This is smart. This is the only thing we should do. So I think that's the reverberations of Joel to me. It is the both sides of Joel where it's just like to being tactful, but also having that revenge and like the anger that it is both sides of it running through this show, even after Joel's death.
So, all right, let's go back. So let's kind of rewind a little bit then to that conversation that they had, that Tommy and Gail had.
Yep. During the baseball game. Yes.
During the baseball game, a nice, very wholesome moment to start off.
And that kid wipes out.
When that
really
kid
funny.
wipes out, they just pan to Gail.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Just that nice little small comedy moment. It kind of lightens up the mood after something very serious just happened.
Yes.
And Tommy goes up to her, and they had a really real conversation. But the key fact I want to point out is when Gail's talking, because it's almost like Tommy thinks Joel's the one that kind of put Ellie into this path. And she says nature, like you said, nature and nurture.
Yeah.
But nurture can only do so much.
Yeah.
And she said something that kind of resonated with me. It was Ellie and Joel have been on the same path from the beginning. They've been side by side. She is parallel to Joel. The same antics, the same way, the same train of thought. And the fact that she said they were on this path, and then you realize she's the only one in the intro now. She's now on this path alone. The entire time she had a checks of balances with Joel, kind of keeping her in a smart path, but a very violent path.
Mm-hmm.
From the beginning. And she's been that because if you go back to season 1, she was already punching people in the face because they looked at her weird. Yeah. They were making fun of her. She already had to learn violence to defend herself. She treats things with violence. That's all she knows. So it wasn't Joel that put her on that path. But now that Joel's off of that path and gone, where's Ellie gonna go now?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's down this. She's down this path alone.
Yeah. Which, to throw it back to season 1, actually, with the episode, with Sam and Henry.
Yes.
When she was trying to connect with Henry through the magic board or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Etch-a-sketch, whatever it was, I don't remember.
Etch-a-sketch.
Whatever it was.
No, I know what it was though.
Yeah, it was like one of those like paper things that you like flipped up and erased.
Yeah, it was
whatever.
like a magnetic or anything, but that's so.
Yes, not important. Whatever.
Most of you too damn young to know remotely what that is.
Legally distinct Etch-a-sketch.
Yeah, sure, exactly. But the thing that she writes down is that she's afraid of ending up alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now that is the path that she has gone down.
She's alone.
And regardless of having Dina, this is her experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is entirely her trajectory.
Then you saw how alone she was in that house. They did it wonderfully. There was no music. It was just Ellie in this big, empty, absent home.
Yeah.
She goes to her bedroom. You see all the dad carvings that he was getting into, being this old dad.
Beekeeping
carving.
Yep.
And they added something very nicely though, because in the game, Ellie just smells his jacket and just puts her face into his jacket. Here, she breaks down.
Yep.
Fully. And then when Dina calls her, quickly and very quickly snaps out of it.
Yep.
Because she doesn't want anyone to see that her vulnerability. She's very closed in. The only person that knew her was Joel.
Yeah.
And now he's gone.
Well, one of the things about that scene is that she snaps away and she kind of mutters fuck under her breath as she's wiping away tears frantically.
Like, why did I let this happen to me?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm embarrassed to show this emotion. I'm not this emotional. I cannot be this emotional.
Yeah.
Very bottled, closed in aspect that I could relate to heavily. So I got that I know how that feels. And that's not a good feeling at all, because you're like, I don't want anybody to see this. I gotta just turn away, turn everything off, and put it right back here and just let it keep going until, well, we'll see that inevitable snap. I mean, we've seen the trailer for it already.
Yes, absolutely.
All painted in lights and very red.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump to the scene that upset a lot of people, and it was supposed to. Per Druckmann and Mason, they said that this scene was meant to frustrate people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is when Ellie and Dina are en route to Seattle, spending the night together in this tent. And the line that Dina says is, "You're gay and I'm not." And asks her to rate the kiss. And I think that there is a little hint of her wanting something to happen that night.
It's very teenage finding my body almost moment.
Yeah.
Very teenage-esque.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they're still young.
You've kissed girls.
Time. Yeah.
Well, how was it? Why do you care? Yeah. And then the little subtle thing right before they cut that scene, and it kind of made you know that there's definitely something more than there is, well, that wasn't that high.
Yep.
And you kind of saw something kind of click with Ellie.
Yep.
Yeah.
That this amazing crush that she has on this girl, you could tell.
It definitely feels more realistic.
It's definitely that. And as they said in that podcast, great podcast, by the way. If you haven't, go listen to the Last of Us official broadcast.
Yeah.
Finish this one.
With
we're almost done, I promise.
with Troy Baker, Craig Mazin, and Neil Druckmann. It's such an amazing podcast, and they dive so much further deeper into this than we could ever imagine.
Well, they made it, so they know what the intentions are. So
yeah. I mean, it's such an amazing podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it happened before that, where they're talking about killing people. Was that before the time? Or after?
Was that in the morning, though? I don't remember.
I don't remember, but they had this moment.
It could have been before, I don't know.
And I don't know if you guys caught this. But when she's like, well, what was the first person you killed?
Uh-huh. And she says it's too fucked up.
Well, it's too fucked up to even mention. Then she goes in very big detail.
Yes.
About the boy that she killed in season 1.
Yeah.
Well, folks, do you know who she was talking about?
Riley.
I know you two do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Riley.
Yep.
That was the first person that she has ever killed.
Yeah.
The first person that she ever truly cared about.
Isn't that in the game too, where she says something to the effect of like they're going through that?
I don't remember.
She says something of like, yeah, like either when did you have to be violent or something like that, or it's like
I think she completely left that out. I don't think she even. I think it was the story that she gave was the one where the dude was drowning her.
That's right.
She grabbed the gun and shot him.
Yeah.
Then she just went into that story. She didn't say the first one. No, that was the first one.
Yeah.
She completely left Riley out of it. So I thought that was a very clever little thing to add. And I don't know how many people actually picked up on that because it almost went over my head.
Yeah.
Because it was just so quick.
Yeah.
And it didn't give me time to process like, oh shit, she's talking about Riley.
Yeah. Yeah, that hurt a little bit. Especially knowing about, what was it, episode 9, I think it was? When they had the whole mall episode between them. Ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh. I think that was episode 8.
8, yeah.
Late in the season, I know that much. Yeah, again, not important, but yeah. So we had that scene that upset a lot of people because that is where they're kind of meant to be intimate with one another for the first time.
Yep.
And it's just,
I like them dragging it out though, because it feels more. It does feel more realistic.
Well, it feels like she's definitely like testing the waters with Dina because she has these previous relations with Jesse, so it's like,
and kind of on now. It is an on relationship now, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Well, and
she says, "Well, oh yeah, no, I'm back with Jesse."
Yeah. Yeah. And already says that. Oh, I already did that. You know.
Like, all right, they done did the nasty, and we'll figure it out why that has a little bit of significance going forward.
Yes.
A little change from the game.
Well, yeah. So let's kind of get into that. When they wake up in the morning, they are continuing their route to Seattle.
Yep.
And they stumble across all of the Seraphites who were killed by the WLF.
Yep.
And it is a horrific scene. And that's when we see Dina throw up or have morning sickness for the first time.
Yeah, and I think this one made a little bit more sense for her to throw up.
Yeah.
Because she just came across a field of bodies that have probably been there for a few days, if not longer, at this point.
Yep.
Because we don't exactly know when that cut was, when that happened to when they show up. We could assume it's been at least a week, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Because because the Seraphites are close to Washington either way. So it had to have been at least a week or two.
Yeah.
So that made sense. I mean, when we first come across, when she shows us her sickness, it's in the game, and they come across Tommy's horse.
Yes.
Half eaten by, infected laying all over, and that's when Dina's just throwing up. But this one kind of plays into it a little bit better because I think that was like, oh, Dina wouldn't probably throw up from that smell. She's probably been used to that kind of smell.
Yeah.
But this is a field full of people.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
That in itself, in just the visuals, probably, because you could almost assume that these people were brutally killed.
I mean, there were kids,
and there were kids. Exactly,
like,
there's little
horrific.
It's kids.
It's the parallel, right? It's the Joel and Ellie thing. It's the a dad and what we assume is either an elder or the dad.
You see her lock into that, when she walks in that field herself.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I also noticed, and I don't know if Ballistic, we talked about this or I just saw it somewhere, but like when we first meet like Ellie and Joel, Joel is the person on the front of the horse, Ellie's the one on the back. And then we get to this game where Ellie is now taking Joel's spot. Yep. And Dina is now in Ellie's spot. And like
they talked about that in the podcast because I remember listening to that.
Yeah, okay, that must have been where I found it then. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really interesting thing and a very detail-oriented thing, for sure.
Yes, very.
Yeah. That's something that I never would have even thought about in a million years.
No, that's just simple dynamic.
But it makes so much sense.
But also remember, like, when they were in the garage, and Dina's like, to save rations, we're going to be on one horse, and they show Ellie, that she gave that little, like, slight smirk that they're going to be so close together. Like, Ellie likes this girl so much.
Absolutely, she does.
There's a lot there. And again, going back to that tent scene, frustrating because I thought we were gonna get what we were all gonna get. I already thought that we were gonna get that, and we didn't. But it was very playful still.
Yeah.
But it is that like teen angst almost, that teen back and forth. How far can I go?
Yep.
And
let me keep, just okay.
Yep. And
that bear.
The fact that it leads more, like what happens throughout leads more to, oh, maybe I do like Ellie more than I thought, because like
I think Dina already knows.
But I think if you put the take on me sequence with that, like it's like over it, especially like
we're getting
which I'm so excited to get.
Goddamn trailer for
I'm
it.
so excited for
that scene.
Listen,
I'm fucking excited.
And having that be and it's going to be next episode. Especially for teens, like when you're in your teens and you're like, oh, like you can sing too, and you're so passionate.
Yep.
Like that is.
I wonder if Dina knows Ellie knows how to sing.
We gotta
wonder.
We gotta get Future Days. We just gotta get Future Days.
We will. I think we will. I don't know if it's gonna be like tomorrow or.
I think it'll be the last episode.
I think that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, I think it's the last episode.
I think at this point it's gonna go. They're gonna get to the theater, and then they might start having those like intricate relations with each other.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Not
Instead
in
of just like
tent.
Doing it in a tent in the middle of the forest. Yeah.
It's gonna be a more intimate scene. I think it'll either happen before or after Nora.
Okay.
I don't even think
my guess is after.
I don't even necessarily think I think we're going into we're gonna go more into Isaac. Isaac is his name?
Isaac. I think that's season 3.
I think well, we're already seeing him in a prominent way, at least within the trailers. I think that we're stopping with Isaac. I think we're getting more things with.
They also show that ominous Nora scene, that at least the red light, that infamous red lighting.
That could be where it ends. To be honest, that could be the cliffhanger of season 2.
Yeah.
Anyways, regardless.
That final blow. Yeah.
Ahead of ourselves.
No matter what.
Which it always happens. But
of course, they're gonna go into the theater, realize you can play the guitar, and then just figure out what songs they can play.
Yep, definitely.
The controls.
Yeah. Those were the worst controls ever. But yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, here's Wonderwall.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. So anyways, yeah. So anyways, past the Seraphites, they reach Seattle.
Such a beautiful shot.
It was a gorgeous shot. Absolutely.
Oh my god.
Gorgeous shots throughout. Oh, did we? I think I want to touch on. I don't know if we've got to it. I think we have, but the scene where we go to the grave.
We went way past.
Yeah, we absolutely did. Totally forget
he
that.
Skipped over that completely.
Yeah, we did. We got distracted.
Oh, wait, hold on. That needs,
back up.
To be talked about.
Yeah.
Sun-kissed hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And something amazing happens, where you have this silent grief. She's finally past the hysterical grieving.
Yeah.
And it's this silent acceptance.
Yeah.
Where she pulls out this burlap sack or this cloth. And what's inside of it? Coffee beans.
Yep.
This thing that Joel cherished. Understatement, cherished.
And she hated.
And she hates coffee. She says it tastes like burnt shit. Her words, not mine. I love coffee. Don't come at me.
Yeah, listen. Listen.
But it was such a. I already had mine this morning at like 8 o'clock. But it was this very sombering moment.
Yeah.
Of her placing these coffee beans on his grave, and I don't know. I can't remember if she says anything, but I think she does. Does she say like I will kill them all, or does she not say anything?
I don't think she said anything. Actually,
no, she just stood up and walked back to the horse, right?
Well, yeah, because I think she had this moment, and then like she like put the beans down. She kind of smiled a little bit, and I thought she went back to Dina, and they just kept going.
Okay,
I don't remember though. I could be
watch
wrong.
that again.
I honestly think it's one of the best changes that they've done, having that not only be after they go to Joel's house, but on their way. I think it feels like a folk song. Like it really does feel like you're getting to a point where it's just like it starts out with the nice like somber like guitar, and then we're going to like the you know, like as we get into it, like a really nice like folk or country song where it's like like, and we're gonna fucking kill those motherfuckers, and well, you know, but it's like, oh, remember Joel died, you know, like it's the start to the ramp.
Well, in the podcast also, they said that this was like a grieving point for the entire fan base.
Yeah,
you know, like this was all of us letting go of Joel and moving on with Ellie as she embarks on this extreme revenge story.
Yeah, and like to that point, it makes sense on who directed this episode. It was the guy who directed this episode was actually the same guy who directed episode 3 season 1, and it had very similar aspects to it. Those very slow, sombering moments between two characters, and you had that aspect with Ellie at Joel's grave, and then the companionship and camaraderie between Ellie and Dina through their entire 800. I just looked at this 850-mile trip.
I was just saying, it's a long
from
that's a
Jackson to Seattle, Washington, on a horse that was weighed down. I'm reading notes right here. 2 people. Weighed down with hardtack, bear spray, and a lot of ammo. Ammo is not light, you guys. This is an 850-mile track for one horse carrying all that weight.
Yep.
I think to save a lot of
people
out
Shimmer,
of
dude.
heartache,
Good on Shimmer.
I think that is what's going to be the cause. Massive spoiler here, by the way, for Shimmer's death.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna blow up Shimmer. I hope not. I don't want to see that.
I hope not, because that's gonna be real sad. I don't want Shimmer to die, but I know it's part of the story.
Wow, you want Shimmer to die?
No! I just said I didn't!
Oh, wow. Truth come out.
Whatever, man. Anyways, Anywho, yes. So they get to Seattle. Getting back on track here. They get to Seattle. They're on the outskirts of the city. And they are surely mistaken when they say, guess nobody's here. And then it cuts to them turning around and I'm guessing walking off of the highway ramp that they're on so they don't fall and die.
1-to-1 scene, by the way. 1-to-1 scene.
Yes. And then it cuts to inside of Seattle with these massive WLF tanks and armies just patrolling the city.
Yeah, it was a very clever, like, slow pan take of it. It was a very cool little director's choice where because you start off just seeing Manny. Lovely person, lovely human being.
Yeah, giving them permission to proceed. Yeah.
Giving them permissions. Like, is it clear? And you're like, who is he talking to? Because it doesn't sound like anybody that you heard.
Yeah.
And all you see is in this watchtower and just looks down at the city. And then they pan down.
Yep.
And you see not a little bit of WLF.
A lot of
but a lot. And maybe just one squadron. That might not be all of them, which I don't think it is. I think there's going to be a fantastically shitload. Because in the game, they're in...
everywhere.
Seattle's.
They're everywhere.
They had enough people to fill an entire football stadium.
Yep.
So we'll see if they keep that aspect into it. We'll find out probably next episode.
Yep. And then that's where credits roll.
Yeah.
And that's what we're left with. And I'm sure disaster will strike.
Oh, yeah.
By the time the episode airs tomorrow or today, for those of you who are watching it now. Yeah. Ballistic, we talked about this. Because we kind of touched on this last week. Saying that Tommy's going to need a good reason to go.
Yes.
And the good reason is going to be Ellie and Dina that have snuck out at 3 a.m. That seems like a fair enough reason to go leave Jackson and his kids. Do you still think that holds true? And
No.
Shotty, feel free to weigh in on this.
I'm on the train that I think Jesse's gonna take the place at least.
Okay.
In the show.
Yeah. I don't think Tommy has a good enough reason.
I think we do save Tommy. I wonder. So I've been thinking about it. I wonder if we do the Tommy thing closer to the end of the game, the same way, just less gristled Tommy. I think we do it in the way of like, oh, I fucked up. Like, I didn't go and you guys got hurt and blah, 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 blah. And Jackson still was vulnerable, even though, and I want my revenge now. So I think that is going to be the tipping point. I almost even wonder if Maria and the kid make it out.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't think that.
I think this season, I wonder why. I guess maybe the fact, like, just to give him more responsibility. But having a kid is a huge change.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what they do with that. Because I feel like we're not done with the themes of
definitely
what that
not.
change means, you know.
I think it's just kind of starting still with that whole theme.
Truly.
Like, we don't know much.
I think if something happens, it's going to happen next season.
No, we don't. They have left out a lot so far.
Yeah.
And they're doing it very well.
It's very methodical, definitely.
They're definitely
it is very methodical,
pacing this out a lot better than season 1, I think. Because they're not rushing anything.
Yeah.
Season 1 to me, with how fast they kind of went through it and kind of had to, because it was such a short game.
Yeah.
And they had to add a lot because a lot of the filler parts of season 1 were gameplay with the DLC were left behind.
Yep.
And this one is a singular game. They have time to prepare. They know the story. They're going to they're pacing it out good, introducing us to everybody that we need to know right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And giving people who haven't played the game and know nothing about this kind of a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
And that's where they're like, as a gamer watching this show who's played the game, I don't get it.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't get it. But I just think the pacing's actually working out really well, that they're going to just elongate everything out and go into an order that kind of makes sense, because Seraphites were still around. They are in Seattle.
Yeah.
Because why the hell did Ellie just start getting attacked by Seraphites?
Yeah, I do agree with that change for sure.
Yeah.
Well, now we know why, because now, as far as we know, the Seraphites are just getting picked off by groups of people.
Yeah.
Which will put them more on a defensive, which is what we'll probably start seeing, a more defensive Seraphite, group.
Yeah.
Instead of, why are they attacking me? Well, in the game, it's just another enemy to have. They need to have that. You can't have their story alongside yours.
Right.
You don't get introduced to their story until you are and live later on in the game anyways. I think they have to do this.
Okay.
I was just gonna say what I will say with this episode, and they do say it in the behind the scenes as well, is the fact that the one thing that I do like in the change that they have from mediums, right, is that because you don't have to worry about the gameplay as much, they were able to grieve Joel in a bigger way, which is definitely my favorite parts of this episode. It is the going to Joel's house. Like, that feels not necessarily better, but just as good. But I think it's the Tommy sitting with Joel. It is them, like, the coffee beans. Like, I think that there's really big scenes and sitting with that rather than just going at it.
Well, it's a personal touch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels more human. Yeah.
So those are the scenes that I really like in this. I want to be proven wrong in a lot of cases, and I'm that's why I kind of did a lot of listening today, because I didn't necessarily hate this episode.
That's totally fine too.
I didn't feel any certain sort of way. So listening to both of you maybe give me some perspective of like, oh shit, like this means something a little different, or
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't pick up on that. You know, like I think with that, I'm silently waiting to see like if I can be turned around, because I really want to.
Yeah.
I'm very much in a point where I'm just like, it's whatever. Like I don't hate it, but it's kind of just whatever at this point.
Yeah.
So I just had a big brain thought moment.
I could tell you've been doing this for like 2 minutes.
It just popped in my head on why the timing seems so fucking stupid to us right now.
Uh-huh.
Because in the game, you go from Abby or from Ellie to Abby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? The entire story, they're playing side by side.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Because you play Ellie, Seattle day 1, Seattle day 2, Seattle day 3, I think you get through. Then you go back to Abby. What shows up on the bottom left side screen? Seattle day 1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you think that's
so we have to be introduced to the Seraphites now.
Yeah.
Because if they go switch over to Abby, well, she's running along that path trying to find Owen. Because at this point, after a lot of this time has passed, Owen went MIA. And the entire 1, 2, 3 day period that she's going along is in lieu day by day with Ellie.
Yeah.
So that's why the timeline seems a little messed up for us. But in reality, it's actually true to the story, because they can't really have you go through this many days, blah, 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 with one character. Then all of a sudden you're on this and go back, which is what I thought they were going to do. But I'm knowing I'm probably very, very wrong.
I'm kind of glad they're not doing that, actually.
Yes, they're making it more streamlined. So I think that's why we're getting introduced to a lot of people right away and a lot of groups right away, because they're going to be in play a lot earlier than we think.
Yeah, definitely.
I still think
already seen Isaac early too.
I think we're seeing him, if I'm reading everything correctly,
just like a little
next
bit.
episode.
Yeah, I was saying, I think he's like a little bit early. I think we see him a little bit earlier than in the game, if I remember.
Well,
correctly.
we are seeing him a little earlier than the game, because you don't meet him until you play Abby after 3 days of playing Ellie, 2 days, whatever it was.
I like that they're, especially because again with the medium of television, and this being like a not story that you can play in one sitting. You know, we're gonna say what, like at best a year before the next season. So laying these seeds early on is kind of imperative for a TV show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
again, it'll help out with the timeline aspect for people that haven't played the game at all.
Yeah.
So that's my theory. I think that's why we're getting introduced to everybody so quickly. Is because they're going to parallel both stories at the same time.
Yeah, 100%.
Instead of doing what we did in the game, played as Ellie, and then after the first time and the second time going back to the theater, you switch over to Abby and you play Abby.
So how do you think that plays out in next season then? Do you think that plays out in the way of like we're doing one episode Ellie, one episode Abby, or you think they're going to be intermixed?
Season 3?
Yeah.
Intermixed.
Yeah.
That's
kind of what I think.
Because I think season 3 is going to be the Seraphite war with the WLF, and then the final revenge for Ellie.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get the entirety leading up to Abby getting back from that island. It's either going to close with Abby leaving, going to the island, which we inevitably know what happens over there, or coming back from that island and finding Owen and Maggie dead.
Yeah.
In the aquarium.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
Okay.
Anyways.
Okay. Well, I think we are going up to end this episode here. Is there anything that you guys feel like we missed out on?
I think we covered everything pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is a great podcast, great episode.
Perfect. Yeah.
If you guys have any suggestions for what else we need to cover in future episodes, please let us know.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our very loose ranking system here, because they are always subject to change, and that's okay. That's totally fine as we learn more, what have you. So we started with Ballistic last time, so let's start with Shotty this time. You were not a huge fan of the episode, so I'm curious to see what your thoughts are about the the whole thing.
I feel like this is such a cop-out answer that me doing this every time, but I feel like it's still a C.
Okay.
It's still like, until I get like the full gist of it, unless there's an episode, like unless next episode it's like totally gets me, and then I would totally change stuff. I feel like that's just gonna be the entirety of the season until the end, where I can be like, okay, so how this played out, this makes more sense with this. Like I feel like this is much more of the setting up the dominoes. So I don't have a lot to like. I don't like the choices, but that being said, if they change or if they do something, and I'm like, oh, that's different perspective than I even thought about, I'm willing to change that. So right now it's a C. There's a lot of things that I really liked. I think it's if I'm ranking the episodes individually, because they're all, let's say they're all on C, I think this one's probably the best out of all of them.
Okay.
Because I feel like they handled the source material really well in this episode in a lot of ways, and the changes don't befuddle me as much.
Okay.
And I think there are some really great and powerful scenes in this episode.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good answer. Ballistic, what are your thoughts?
As a morning episode, I'm gonna give it I think an 8 for like just the morning part of it.
Okay.
Overall, I think I'm gonna drop it down to about a 5.5. About 5.5.
Okay.
Because I think there's a lot of things they could have explained a little bit better. Kind of go into what exactly faction of the WLF came.
Okay.
Lead us a little bit more into that. I would have liked to see a little bit more interaction on the horse with Dina and Ellie. A little bit more cut throughs than just kind of skipping all the way forward, which I know we do that in the game. Other than that, I love the beginning. I love the intro. The intro was phenomenal. It brought a lot of things down to earth for sure. Yeah, I mean, it was a solid episode, but I think overall it's going to be about 5.5 for me, just because, like I said, they did very well as a morning episode. Very well. When it comes to aspects of the show and explanationally wise, explaining a lot more things, they could have done a little bit better for that, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that like this is probably like a 6 for me, because I think there was a lot of good aspects to it. Don't get me wrong. And like a lot did happen, but it didn't feel like a lot happened.
Yeah, it was a very drawn out episode.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like I liked that we got to see like Ellie have her moment of grieving before she was able to move on and like do anything else. But I don't know. It didn't feel like there was a lot of substance to it, especially following an episode that was so jam-packed of like action and things that were happening.
Yeah, it was definitely, like I said, it was a good cool down morning episode.
Definitely.
Overall, for the sake of the show, or for at least for that episode explaining more, it could definitely been a lot more.
And I get why they did it. Like I get it, obviously, but I don't know. It was one of those ones that it's like, okay, we're 40 minutes into this episode.
Yeah, it was very slow.
Yeah.
I think for me, what makes it the best episode, and again, a slew of episodes that I didn't really care for, all of them, what makes it the best episode to me is it got more to what I like, not only about Last of Us Part 2, but also Last of Us as a series. It did more for the character moments and did more to make me more skeptical about the choices, and did more to make me like, oh, well, maybe that does make more sense. I feel like it's connecting the dots just a little bit better. Again, we'll see at the end of it all to see how it really shakes out, and how will it be better with time or lessened with time. I think it's truly just a mid episode, like a middle episode, where it's just like,
definitely.
It could be like
those. We need
God
those.
tier,
it was definitely a cool down.
Yeah.
It was a cool down episode for sure, but there could have been a lot more to it.
It's good to have episodes like this. I think having like just maybe one thing that was like, whoa, holy shit, that just happened, would have been a huge thing. And I know it doesn't really happen like in the story, like in the game.
I think they tried to do that with the revealing of the WLF, but most of us already know how big that faction already is. It wasn't a surprise for us to see. I was surprised to see tanks.
Yeah,
because they didn't have that kind of military vehicles in the game, so that one kind of shocked me.
It's interesting that they present them kind of like Fedra too. They very much
militarized.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. There was nothing that just made me go like, oh, whoa, big moment. Yeah, it was just like, oh, okay, that was nice.
I think we're gonna get a big moment tomorrow.
I think so.
I think that's what I'm looking for more in this series is like the little bit of character moments and the changes that they do to make the characters seem more filled out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and that's what I like about the series. So
yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, if nobody has any closing comments or remarks, I think we will end that here. Once again, thank you both for being here. I appreciate it. Could not do it without you guys. And if you made it this far in the episode, thank you for watching, because I know we yap a whole lot. But thank you for watching.
But it's good yapping.
It is. It's good. Good to get your thoughts and feelings out of there, or whatever, you know. But yeah, hopefully we have a lot to talk about next week as well. Hopefully we have a really interesting episode, because I think a lot could happen.
Yeah.
But that's all we got for this week. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.